Happy birthday to our podcast. Did it. We made it a full year of never missing a Monday. I'm so proud of us. A full year of never missing a Monday. This is episode 52. And I am going to be talking to you about what's the right number of formats to teach. What's the right number? And spoiler, it's individual. There isn't really a right or a wrong number, but I have some guidance. And before I go much further, I also have to say not only happy birthday to us, but happy first episode with Fig, my new puppy. So if you're on YouTube, I'm just gonna show you how adorable he is. Fig, hello, honey. Say hi to our show. Oh, he's looking at himself in the mirror. There's a mirror down there. Who is that handsome devil? Oh my gosh, this podcast is taking a turn. Who is that handsome boy? Who is that handsome dog? Okay, let me focus. So, happy birthday to us. Happy new puppy to me. If you have known me very well personally at all, I had a dog and he died 2 years ago in November, actually Thanksgiving weekend, and he was the love of my entire life. So when he died, I have actually never experienced pain like that. I've been very sheltered in my life from serious loss. I've lost my grandparents, but also was not very close with them, mostly due to geography, not growing up in the same state and stuff. So it just knocked me out. The grief just overwhelmed me. And I honestly didn't think I could expose myself to that again. And I thought I would never get another dog. And here we are. 2 years later, wow, the heart is resilient. I'm doing it again. So, here's to the next, God willing, 15 years of the blessing of a dog. I will say to the dog lovers listening, there's just no greater love in the world. It's the most unconditional love that exists is the love of a dog. So that's Fig. He's kind of going to be in the background here. And we're going to dive into the meat of this show. 2 to 3 formats, I believe, for most instructors is going to be the sweet spot. 2 to 3 formats. Now, there's going to be some outliers, but for the most part, if you just teach one and only one format, you're probably going to get really bored eventually, or even really injured if you're doing a ton and ton of it. And if you're doing, 5, 6, 7, 8 types of different formats, you're probably going to get really burned out. Also, I really think it's individual, and I really think there is a right number for you. And it's just a matter of figuring out what that right number might be. And you don't have to know right this very second, it's a trial and error thing. And it just depends on a lot of variables. And we're really going to talk about those variables and what contributes to the perfect number of formats for you to teach. I want to talk about the benefits of teaching multiple formats. I want to teach Freudian slip from a GroupX instructor. I want to talk about the drawbacks to teaching a lot of formats. I want to talk about sort of some litmus test things like should you add and how to add a new format if you're thinking about doing that. So let's dive in, starting with the benefits. Why should you teach more than just one format? One, it helps prevent injury. To be doing different types of styles and modalities. So I'll use me as an example and the formats that I teach. Warrior Combat, the boxing inspired format. Because of the way we hold our guard, because of the way we have an authentic boxing flavor, just like someone who does a lot of boxing, they're going to be really tight in their upper traps and chest and anterior delts because they're holding their guard up. It's almost like, for those of you listening and you don't have a visual, it's almost like shrugging a little bit. You're almost just slightly elevating your scapula a little bit, and you're almost rounded. I'm not saying you're kyphotic, but there's a certain like boxer stance. And I also teach cycle, warrior revolution, and it's a very sagittal plane the whole entire hour, with the exception of the fun party moves like shoulder drops and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's classified as sagittal plane work, all of it, the whole hour. And while you're on a bike, your knee and your hip, for example, never go into full, complete extension. The hip and the knee, there's always a little bit of bend in the knee and bend in the hip while you're on the bike. So, whereas with warrior rhythm, I'm constantly opening the hips, and it's very multiplanar. And so the different modalities, obviously, uh, and let me just add one more to the mix. Warrior strength. I'm doing a lot of high impact. There's HIIT training in there. And of course, we have modifications and blah, blah, blah for people that don't want high impact. But for the most part, it is a HIIT workout with some weightlifting. And I wouldn't want to be doing a HIIT like high impact every single day. Not every day, but a couple times a week. Yes, I want to be doing HIIT training a couple times a week. So the variety that I'm putting my body through is actually good for it and helps keep injuries at bay. In the same way that combat might have me a little bit rounded and shrugged, rhythm is going to open me up. And in the same sense, where warrior strength is high impact, warrior revolution is like no impact, And while we tend to be a little bit rounded when we cycle and when we box, rhythm is going to open all that up to the chest. So again, teaching different styles of exercise, different modalities is good at actually elevating your personal fitness level, but also keeping injuries at bay. Another reason that it is good to teach multiple formats is that it keeps boredom at bay. Nobody wants to take class from a bored instructor, and no instructor wants to be bored. And sometimes just adding a new format to your regimen will just reawaken your entire soul. And I'll talk more about that as we go through my list today. But teaching multiple formats helps you stay passionate about what you do and less bored than if you just taught one. Another benefit of teaching multiple formats is that you can reach more people. There are certain members that are like just going to do cycle, or just going to do yoga, or just going to come to lift weights, or whatever it is. And you can reach more people when you get out of just one silo and you tap into other silos. So that's a different benefit, but related to my next benefit. So the next benefit is you can cross-pollinate. Trying to think of a better word for that, but cross promote. You can, if you're teaching different modalities, you can actually help these silo type people that only come to the cycle room or only come to the yoga studio or like whatever. They only like one style of exercise. They might fall in love with you. And because it's you teaching another style of workout, they're gonna do it, which is amazing. That's another benefit, is you can kind of crack people out of their silos, which guess what is better for their adherence, their boredom, and their injury prevention as well. It makes you more indispensable as an employee or an independent contractor if you just are like kind of have lots of skills in your tool belt, lots of different styles that you can bring out. You can sub more for different types of classes more. And then finally, the benefit, I put this at the end because I actually think it's actually the most powerful. Teaching multiple formats, even just adding one, the right one to your plate, can awaken your entire soul. Like I said, it can, let's be honest, with anything we do in life, even if you're not a fitness instructor, anything mundane or routine that we do all the time, we could become apathetic. I see it all the time in fitness instructors. We lose that blue flame. The blue flame is the hottest part of the flame. And I have experienced, oops, hang on. He's chewing on my art. My podcast room is my art room, and he just decided to chew on one of my original watercolors that is not framed yet. Okay, it's no big deal. He didn't hurt it. I got to it first. I have seen a lot of that, and it's been one of the biggest blessings for me as a format creator is having people tell me that like once they started teaching one of our formats that it made them fall in love with teaching all over again. That's actually a story I hear often. And I think because I meet a lot of instructors on, or have met a lot of instructors over the last 4 years on the conference circuit, a lot of instructors that go to conferences, a lot of them have like been doing that for years. And so they've been also teaching the same thing for years. And then it's exposing them to something new that they try. And so I can't tell you how many people have been like, thank you. This format has brought me back to life. I actually love teaching again. And that's like, honestly, that's like my favorite compliment, I think. Okay, so those are some of the benefits or the why you should teach another format. Let's talk about some of the drawbacks, why maybe you should not add more to your plate. Teaching another format, if it's a trademark branded format, not one that you're creating yourself. If it is a trademark format branded, it will likely mean more fees for you, more money. It also means you could make more money. So that's kind of, I guess that is a why and a why not. It definitely can take more time, which is our most valuable resource in the world. It can take more skill. So you might have to do some upskilling. And again, that takes time and energy. And I guess maybe a drawback is more stress to your life if you add too much or add at the right, not the right time or the right season. So while I'm an advocate and a proponent of like stretching yourself and teaching as many formats as you can teach well, like ding, 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 that is actually the answer right there for you. How many can you do well is how many you should teach. That's how many you should teach. And for most people, honestly, it's 2 to 3. Most people, it's 2 to 3 because the more you add the much more skill it takes to do them all well. And so that can add more stress. And so that would be that I'm just going to put in the drawback category. Okay, so what's kind of a litmus test to like, should you add like, you know, what kinds of things should you take into consideration? Number one, do you move well doing different types of things? And it's okay. It's not like a deal breaker if you don't, because you can upskill and level up and learn to move well in a different modality. But certainly there's like a big difference like in the, again, I know I'm using myself as a reference a lot tonight, so sorry if it sounds like I'm being a narcissist, but I'm a good example of someone who can do multiple formats well. But I've also been teaching for 25 years, and that's part of it, is longevity and experience actually helps you grow into and have the bandwidth to take on more. So the longer you've been in this game, in this industry, you really do, as you grow and as you grow as a human being, you are able to take on more. So I'm a good example of someone that can do different types of things well. But part of that is I can move well doing things that are maybe like yoga like, but also things that are like fast twitch tuck jumps or sprints on a bike or you know clean and presses, I'm able to move my body with different styles of workout. And again, it's not a deal breaker if you're not, it's actually an opportunity, which will tie into my confession today, for you to upskill. But it is important, if you're going to be adding more, that you look good, you look the part doing it. And the biggest component of that is how you move. Something to consider. Do you have the bandwidth? Like, do you have the time and energy to take on something else? It's an honest like litmus test question here. Do you really have the bandwidth? Is it the right season of your life? Because we have seasons. We have seasons. We have seasons, sometimes going through divorce, sometimes having babies, um, sometimes I don't know, menopause, death of a parent, death of a spouse. Like there's different seasons of our lives. And I think some seasons lend themselves more to growth and development professionally and taking on more than others. Like again, I'm a good example because I have three grown kids and I just have the time and I have the time, I have the energy and I have the bandwidth. And so I'm teaching more formats now than honestly than I ever have. And I've taught a lot of formats. You don't always have to keep them either. There's been seasons of my life where I taught, I did Les Mills for 14 years. I did Pound for 3 or 4 years. I did Rep Reebok. I did Mosa. I did um, just numerous different, a whole litany of 24-hour fitness formats. So there's seasons. So right now I teach Warrior Rhythm, Warrior Strength, Warrior Combat, Warrior Revolution, and Warrior Rhythm Roots, which is the new senior program we just released. And I say senior, but it's more like active agers and adaptive athletes. It's more like just anyone who could use the assistance of a chair or needs maybe some help with balance. um, I like to refer to it like that as opposed to a seniors class, but that's important too because my brain could take on more. My body couldn't take on more than what I'm doing right now, but I could add roots because it's not very taxing on me physically. So that's another consideration is how physically taxing is your schedule and are the different classes you teach, and is it smart to add more? Because I know I said adding a bunch of different styles is good for injury prevention, but too much of anything is just too much and could be not good for you. So how long you've been teaching, is a factor, your bandwidth, how well you move. And then another good litmus test is like, are you under challenged? Are you under stimulated? Again, are you bored? If you're not challenged, like if you're bored as an instructor, if you're experiencing some doldrums like that, I promise it's directly related to just being under challenged because being challenged is super stimulating. So, food for thought. So now let's talk about how to add. Okay, let's say you've been listening to this and you're like, "Oh my gosh, she's speaking to me. This episode is for me. I am bored. I want to meet more members. I want to be more indispensable as an employee. I want to reignite my fire." Whatever your reasons are as you're listening, if you're like, yes, that's me. So now what? Like, how do I pick one? What do I do? So I say date your options. You don't have to commit, like do a deep dive, ask a bunch of questions, try the workout first and foremost. When you try the workout, are you like, oh my gosh, I would love to share this with people? Like, or the people I teach would love this. Try the workout and do your due diligence and your research. What is it going to cost? Are there continuity fees? What's the culture of that brand like, or the format? Does it resonate with me? Would I want to connect? Would I want to identify as someone that kind of belongs to this group of instructors? Does it speak to me? Does it attract me? The culture of a format is so important in this decision. Like, do a deep dive, check it out. And, does it make you feel alive? Is it thrilling to think about sharing it? And then there's other things like, do you need to mirror image versus turn your back? Is it one of those formats where you don't use a mic and you want to use a mic, or vice versa? Or does it take copious amounts of memorization and you just don't want to do it? Like side note, I do not want to spend a bunch of my life memorizing choreography. I don't. So our formats are pretty darn easy to turn around and teach to varying degrees. Like Warrior Rhythm is a little bit harder, and Warrior Strength is the easiest format in the world to teach. So there's a little bit of a spectrum there, but I've done that where I've spent so much time learning a format and memorizing choreography that needed to be taught so precisely where there weren't patterns built in, like you're just doing straight up strict memorization. And I've been there and I've done that and I've done the math and I was like getting like if you take into consideration all the time like that I was spending at home practicing and memorizing, I was getting paid like nothing, a couple dollars an hour, you know? So like do your homework. Do your homework and um, you know, be slow to decide. And if you make the wrong decision and you start teaching something that doesn't work, you can you don't have to you're not committing for life, you know. So let's just recap real quickly. Some of the benefits: prevents injury, keeps boredom at bay, allows you to reach more people, allows you to cross pollinate, get people out of silos, including yourself, makes you more indispensable, helps you make more money, can really truly reignite your blue flame. Drawbacks: might cost a little more money, might take a little bit more time, definitely might take more skill, and might add some stress to your life. Litmus test, can you move well? Like, can you do, you know, can you look the part in terms of movement quality for what you want to add? And if not, that's okay. Can you get there? Can you get there? Again, I'm going to tie that into my confession today here in just a second. Do you have the bandwidth? How long have you been teaching? If you're a new instructor, no, just like if you're a new instructor, one format's fine. One format is fine for a long time. But 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, most instructors are ready for more. Let's see. And then, you might surprise yourself. So try things out, date different formats, different companies, different communities. What's the culture like? And you might surprise yourself. Like you might like teaching a format. Okay. Are you ready for this? That you don't think you would like teaching. I promise you might love teaching something that you never even imagined yourself trying. So be very, very, very open-minded. And I guess I'll kind of take that into my, I guess I'll tie that into my confession. So, my confession is that I like don't naturally move well with kickboxing and have had to work and I'm still working like very hard on that. But that's been an area like I just wanted to tell you that's my confession is that I like sucked when I started teaching combat. Don't forget that was my unexpected pregnancy, that brand. I didn't expect to have it. I didn't expect to have it, but you've heard that story from me in the past, so I won't go into it. But it's a format and that kind of snuck up on me, and the opportunity was there, and I seized it. And so that like just learning how to chamber my leg and do a side kick without my toe pointing up, and to make a fist with my stiletto fingernails, like just figuring out that format has been very, very challenging and very, very rewarding for me. Super proud of myself. So my other formats were very natural for me. So, anywho, I wanted to just say this in closing that your bandwidth, your capability, your capacity, and your competency will grow if you stress it, if you challenge it, just like training a muscle. Just like we know how we literally are tearing down our muscles so that they can build back up, it's the same thing with our skill and our bandwidth. If you would have told me, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago that I'd be teaching, 5 formats and absolutely thriving, I would have been like, what? No way. But it's it's because I've continued to challenge and stress that muscle and the capacity to learn more and the capacity to learn more choreography and to um, keep adding. I've challenged that, and so it grows. And that's my challenge to you. If you feel like in any way that you've been stagnating, is maybe it's time to get out of your comfort zone and take on something new. So thank you for listening to episode 52. Happy birthday to us. And I'm going to make some big decisions about the podcast now. Like, I committed to 1 year and I know I'm going to keep going because I already have some really cool guests booked. I forgot about that when I was when I was booking out for this quarter. So we're definitely going to keep going. It's been really fulfilling for me and I think valuable for you. Your feedback, your comments, your reviews have been beautiful and I'm super grateful. So I think we'll keep going and I think the once a week every Monday has been serving the community well. So give me your feedback and remember to rate the show and share it. And thank you for all you do. Keep being amazing and changing lives every single time you put a microphone on. Bye, everybody.